Okay, today we're tackling one of the most stunning and, let's be honest, frustrating houseplants out there, the string of pearls. If you've ever dreamed of finally mastering this beautiful but, yeah, notoriously tricky plant, then you are in exactly the right place. And this quote from plant expert Anastasia Remeslo, it just hits the nail on the head. I mean, this isn't just a plant. It's like a living sculpture, a cascading chain of these perfect little green beads. And that charm is exactly why so many of us bring one home, just filled with hope. But that hope can turn to panic pretty fast. This plant has a reputation for being finicky, and it turns out one single mistake is by far the most common reason they just don't make it. So, what is it? Let's get right into it. All right, so first things first, we have to admit this plant is both absolutely captivating and a little bit of a challenge. At least it is until you learn its rules. And here it is, the answer you've been waiting for. The #1 killer of a string of pearls plant is overwatering. It's really that simple. See, their root systems are super shallow, and they just cannot handle sitting around in wet soil. So all that love in the form of water leads directly to root rot. And trust me, it happens fast. But don't worry. Avoiding that fatal mistake really just comes down to mastering 3 fundamental principles. So let's call them the golden rules for a thriving string of pearls. First up, light. Now, what's really important here isn't just light on the trailing strands. It's about where the light hits. The top of the soil itself needs to be bathed in bright, indirect light. If the top is in shadow, which happens a lot with hanging baskets, the plant starts to get thin and kind of bald at its base. Sound familiar? That's why. Next up is water. And I want you to forget about a weekly schedule. Just forget it. You need to use the soak and dry method. That means watering it thoroughly and then not again until the soil is completely bone dry. The real pro tip here is what we call the pearl test. You gotta look at the leaves. When they're perfectly round, the plant's hydrated. But when they start to look a little deflated, maybe even a bit pointed, that's the plant telling you, hey, I'm thirsty. And our third golden rule is soil. This one is totally non-negotiable. You absolutely have to use a fast-draining cactus or succulent mix. Regular potting soil, it acts like a sponge, holding onto moisture for way too long, and that is a death sentence for the shallow roots of a string of pearls. Okay, so once you've mastered survival with those golden rules, how do you get your plant to really flourish? Let's get into some of the more advanced tips for a truly thriving plant. Here's a quick little checklist for you. A shallow terracotta pot is your absolute best friend because terracotta literally wicks moisture away, helping that soil dry out faster. When you do repot, and that's only every 2 to 3 years, choose a pot that's just 1 inch wider. They actually like being a little bit crowded. And definitely go easy on the fertilizer. Once or twice a season is plenty. And please, don't be afraid to give your plant a haircut. Pruning isn't just about controlling the length. Every single time you trim a strand, you encourage the plant to branch out, and that creates a much fuller, denser crown right at the top. Plus, you get cuttings to make brand new plants, but we'll get to that in a bit. And of course, you want to show this thing off. Its whole appeal is that cascading nature. Hanging baskets are a classic for sure, but placing it high on a shelf can create this stunning green waterfall effect. And you've seen those whimsical face planters, right? Where the pearls become hair? They're popular for a reason. They are just incredibly charming. Now, even with the absolute best care, you might still run into some issues. So let's troubleshoot the most common problems you're likely to see. Okay, this is probably the most confusing symptom people face, shriveled pearls. And it's confusing because it can mean 2 completely opposite things. So the most important thing you can do is check the soil. If that soil is bone dry, the plant is simply thirsty, give it a good, thorough drink. But if the soil is damp and the pearls are still shriveled, well, that's root rot. It means the roots are dead and they just can't absorb water anymore. And here's something just fascinating. Have you ever noticed those little translucent slits on each pearl? Those are actually called epidermal windows. In its dry native habitat, these little windows let sunlight get inside the leaf to maximize photosynthesis, all while the plant's surface area stays tiny to prevent water loss. It is an absolutely brilliant evolutionary trick. And now for the best part. This plant is incredibly easy to propagate, which means you can turn one plant into pretty much an endless supply of pearls for yourself and all your friends. It's really just a simple 4-step process. All you do is snip a few healthy strands, lay them down on top of some succulent soil, and then gently press the stems so they're making good contact. Keep that soil lightly misted, and in just a few weeks, you'll start to see new roots and new growth popping up. It really is that easy. And this right here, this is the #1 secret to getting that super full, lush plant that you see in all the pictures. You don't even have to use a new pot. Just take those cuttings you pruned off, coil them right back on top of the soil in the original pot, and they will root right there, filling in all the gaps. So, to wrap everything up, let's just do a quick review of the key takeaways. First, make sure you get that bright light directly onto the top of the pot. Second, always use the pearl test to decide when it's time to water. Third, choose a shallow terracotta pot to help that soil breathe. And finally, don't be afraid to prune and propagate right back into the same pot to create that amazing full cascade. So we learned that each pearl is actually a modified leaf with its own little window to let in light. What a stunning adaptation for survival. It kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other hidden, brilliant solutions are just waiting to be discovered? Not just in our houseplants, but in the entire natural world all around us.